The Evolution Security Podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Evolution Security Podcast. I am Aaron Davis, and I am here with my twin bro, Eric Davis. It is good to see you virtually across the desk here, bro. How are you doing?
Wonderful, man. You know, getting to hang out with Chris is always a great time, and I've been looking forward to this all day. As a matter of fact, when Chris texted, I mean, I had the reminder in my calendar, but man, when I saw Chris text come in, I'm like, yeah, because it was a busy day. So
yeah.
Glad to be here.
So we are honored to have, for the fourth time, SWAT Lieutenant Chris Lapre of Pinal Country, Arizona, under America's Sheriff, Mark Lamb. He's got some legit stuff going on there. He is in the thick of all this stuff that we're seeing on the news, especially in the border situation. We've talked about that on another show. We're not going to talk about that this time, but he is in the thick of that, and I'm sure it's pretty crazy for him still. So, but Chris, we're going to have a fun topic that is near and dear to your heart, and we've had some talk pre-show, and it's going to be some good content for the listener. So how are you doing, brother?
I'm doing excellent, man. I was worried because I didn't hear from you guys, and I was like, man, I hope the show's a go, because I always love coming on here, and the pre-show is as much as the actual show. So I love you guys, and I'm just happy to be back, man. And before I go any further, Aaron, congratulations on the blue belt, bro.
Thank you.
I know I sent you a text when I saw it, but I wanted to put it on the air so everybody hears it from me, dude. It's awesome accomplishment, man, and I've been there.
Oh, thanks, man. And you know what's so funny? Now, some people may get on to me, but I was flipping through some pictures, and there's a picture of my blue belt. It's like, wait a minute, I'm a blue belt now. I forgot. Because of the holidays and stuff, I haven't been to the gym in about a week and a half. So it's like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, I am a blue belt. It's pretty sweet.
I'm counting on you to get that trip to Thailand, brother.
Oh, so you heard that? Yep.
Oh, yes. I listen to you guys religiously. I do.
Man, that's awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, that would be great, man. I'm good with it either way, man. But I'm gunning for it. I'm trying to get my brown belt before I won't get it before I'm 50, obviously, but because that's less than a year. But trying to get it soon, hopefully. But not being careful not to chase belts. I don't mean it that way. I want to earn it, of course.
No. I get it, man. Like I'm with you 100%. I know exactly what you're talking about, dude. Yeah.
As you head towards as both of you head towards your purple.
Shoot. I told my guys at my gym, I'm like, guys, I just hope to be a purple by the time I'm 50. That's my 50-year birthday present to myself, and that's 4 years away. So.
Oh, you can do it, man. You can do it. You got it. Well, awesome, Chris. Man, I when we were texting a little bit earlier, I was thinking about that. Chris, I think he is the fourth repeat guest, and I was like, yep. And you were honestly a later guest, your first show, but we've had such good content, and we count you as a brother, and it's been awesome to have you on multiple times, and we love you too, brother. So it's great to have you on again.
Thank you, guys.
I think what we'll do is just give us a quick summary of your background, and we'll point folks back to the previous episode, especially episode 1, where they can get a detailed bio from you. But just give us the 20,000 view, and we'll jump into this topic.
Sure. Been a peace officer in the state of Arizona for going on 24 years. Currently work for the Pinal County Sheriff's Office and been there, it'll be 19 years with the Sheriff's Office this year. Previously worked for a city agency. Majority of my last 15 years have been in special investigations, we'll call it. I've worked undercover, I've worked gangs, I've worked DEA task force officer. And the last 16 years, I have been part of our SWAT team, attaining the rank of basically held every position with the exception of a sniper position. And now I'm the commander over the team, or the team lieutenant for them. And I also handle our narcotics, anti-smuggling, and SWAT. So that's my background. Sorry, guys, my pop's playing.
Oh, no problem. We love that content as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, Chris breezed over. He's also a phenomenal shooter and firearms instructor on the side as well. And you know, I've taken a couple of classes with Chris, and he freaking brings it at the top. So yeah, if you want some good instruction and you're close to Chris or wherever he's teaching, you know, you need to get into one of his classes.
Amen.
So with that said, since you have some expertise in dealing with clearing structures,
yeah,
and we talked a little bit offline a little while back that, you know, we hadn't had a show specifically addressing home security, and
yeah, for sure.
And so, I mean, you said, "Hey, let's get this together," and I think it's a phenomenal subject, and with your expertise, I couldn't think of a better person to have on to discuss it. Now, one of the things that tends to be misunderstood is what we really should be doing on a basic tactic standpoint. We tend to have, you know, not being rude to some folks that may be newer to this realm, but there seems to be a little bit of a fantasy out there of, you know, a one-man SWAT team going throughout your house and finding the bad guy and taking him out. And, you know, I just want to give the floor to you to, you know, hit on, you know, what that really looks like and what really folks should be thinking about.
Yeah, man. Like you said, there's this fantasy, and I don't know if it's perpetrated by people who've never. There's some legit guys out there that have talked about it, but realistically, you guys know, you guys have been around enough shooting. Even people who have no experience don't have to be good to hit the target. They just have to be lucky, right?
Yeah.
So if somebody's making forcible entry into your house, especially if for some reason they have reason to believe that you were home, let's say there's a couple of vehicles in the driveway, there's lights on in the house, that person probably is there to do ill harm to you if you are encountered within the residence. So if you start making your way through the structure, whether you are by yourself or with your family, it's a 50-50 win at best because it's a one-on-one gunfight. Majority of the things we're seeing today, as you guys can attest through videos, through the internet, stuff like that, is people aren't doing single home or single person burglaries or home invasions anymore. It's that usually one to three people, sometimes as many as 5, right? So now you're maybe a 1 to 3, 1 to 2 gun battle. I don't want those odds, right? When we go into a house, we prefer minimum 2 people to a room, right? So we have 2 guns against 1 if it's going to get that way. And now I'm dealing with multiple angles, multiple open areas, the possibility of encountering a person, in the processing of that information. And now we haven't even talked about if it happens while I'm asleep and I'm woken up. Now I'm not completely awake. I'm not cognitively 100%. My vision may be diminished because it may be dark in the house. And I expect to take rifle or pistol and start clearing my structure to this point of contact where I'm going to encounter this person, hoping, again, best on best, that it's a one-on-one person, right? Compared to, hey, I hear something crash. Hopefully you have an alarm system. We'll get into all that in a little bit. Alarm system. I believe there's somebody in my house. I'm going to strong point in my bedroom and either barricade my door or provide some kind of alternative breaching to my bedroom door, start calling 911. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get on the phone and I'm going to explain, hey, I believe there's somebody in my house. This is where I'm at in my bedroom. You can identify it by north, south, east, west, maybe some exterior windows. If you can describe that to the dispatch, they can put that out to the police or deputies that are coming. And then you're now on active 911, which is a recorded line. If somebody comes into your house and starts making entry or attempting to gain entry into your bedroom, as you have a fortified door and you've announced to them, hey, I'm inside this room. I'm in fear for my life. If you come through that door, I am armed. All this is being recorded on 911, right? And somebody starts kicking in your door, guess what? They're doing that with intent to do you harm. At that point, I don't know too many states, even some of the most liberal states out there, you have met the requirements for use of deadly physical force. You're in your house, in your room. You've announced that you're in fear. You've stated that, hey, do not come in here. I'm in fear for my life. I leave my house now. And they're still actively trying to get to you. That puts you in reasonable apprehension of injury or death.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great articulation. And I think to that point, various states, you may be in trouble if you go looking through your home and you end up even if what would normally be justifiable in some states may not be justifiable in others. I mean, I can think of states like New York and others of that sort. Man, unfortunately, it seems like if you get in a defensive shooting, you're on an uphill battle. Even if you're in your own home. Yeah, go ahead.
You guys know there's states out there that don't have castle doctrine.
Yeah.
Right? You have to use some means of ability to attempt to escape. And if you have a bedroom window, as horrible as this sounds, that could be used against you. Well, you had a window, you could have went out the window. You didn't have to shoot this guy, right? That's not a battle you want to fight. You don't want that legal battle, because that's an absolute terrible thing to go through. Now, where this gets a little convoluted is you're in a house and you have kids, right? Let's say young kids. Here's where you may very well become the single man hostage rescue unit or the two man if your wife's involved with you or girlfriend, whatever. And that's a decision that you need to make. And I don't know too many parents who are going to just be like, well, good luck, kids. It's going to be that mama bear, papa bear type thing to protect their kids, and they're going to go to them. Now, what we're going to do, hopefully, is go direct to threat, right? We're going to go directly to where our kids are, make sure they are secure, and now we can strong point in their bedroom and do the exact same thing. I don't need to go move in through my house to try and find these people, the bad guys, whatever. If it does come down to that, people have to understand they can't be going and searching. They need to bypass doors, they need to bypass rooms and get there as fast as they can. And if you need to sprint to get there, you need to sprint, right? Because your kids are not going to do any good if, while in the meantime, you're trying to play commando and you get shot or killed, and now your kids are in this house by themselves. And guess what? Somebody who's willing to take those actions against you may not want witnesses. It is what it is today in today's society. And your kids may become victims because you chose to do something that maybe you didn't have the skill set to do, or, and this may offend some other people out there, but I'm not too worried about it right now, chose to do something that you read or saw on the internet that probably wasn't the best choice for you to do, right? Everything looks cool on the internet, but when you have to do it in real life, it's not fun. Cops, deputy sheriffs, they do building clearing. Deputies especially do solo man building clearing. It is not by any means ideal, but sometimes it's just a product of the job we do. And I will tell you what, there's nobody in my profession that I know that wants to do it, but sometimes it just happens. So if guys who do it often don't want to do it, it probably tells you something. Right?
Yeah, I was just about to bring that up, Chris. I was going to bring up the fact that, again, your background as a SWAT commander, you do lots of clearings of homes and or, both in the training environment and the real world environment.
Yeah.
Now, granted, obviously there's some difference between team work, team clearing and single, but still, obviously a lot of the principles are the same. But my point being is what you just said. So your experience with that. Secondly, deputies that have had to do it multiple times and still say, I don't want to do it. And I mean, I've spoke with multiple people that have said the same thing. And if folks that have done it before and have solid training backgrounds in it say they don't want to do it, I think that's a clue, right?
Yeah. We've taught solo deputy response for active shooter. We've taught it for other things too. And just sometimes it's like, hey guys, if for some reason you get to a location, man, the sheriff's office is here. Our county's the size of Connecticut, right? There's counties out here in Arizona that are even more remote and 5 times, I won't say 5 times, but 3 times our size. And I guarantee there's deputies on patrol tonight that will potentially go to an alarm drop, go to a residential alarm, and the wind blew a door open, and they have to clear that structure by themselves because their backup is an hour away, right? And what we try and teach, and this is something that Craig will stress too, if I can keep the angles to a 90, I can pretty much one-man that. It's not ideal, but I can pretty much one-man that. So 90 or narrower, I can maintain those angles. As soon as I start getting outside of that 90, it's very, very, very difficult as a single person to cover my angles. And that's where it starts getting dangerous, right? I push through a hallway. What happens in most people's houses, you get 180 sometimes, because it'll be kitchen on one side, living room on another, or dining room, kitchen, living room. So now I'm at a 180. So it's a 50-50 chance what side the bad guy could be on. And that quarter to half second that I need to dig this corner before I can turn around and dig my, say, left side corner, guess what? That bad guy's already oriented and made the decision on what's going to happen there. And if guys that are listening to this show just walk through their house after this and go, how many angles do I have beyond 90? And how much would I really be dealing with? I bet you they would be really surprised at how much they would be exposed in their house and go, man, this is not good. And just looking at it.
That's a great exercise.
Yes.
Folks need to do that. They need to know their structure. And like Chris said, how many 180s do you have in your house? Really start thinking about it, because that should kind of help you, realize that hey, the best tactic, likely our first tactic, should be either to strong point, or if we have kids, get to their location and strong point. And so, I think that kind of drives home the point that if we strong point versus if we're going to find the bad guy, and they at that point, if they hear you coming, which is a possibility, then all of a sudden they make their own strong point and they're in an ambush position. Yes. And so again, I don't care how good you are. You know, how many snake eaters have been ambushed by, you know, farmers and, you know, barely trained insurgents downrange. You know, I think that is the main point to drive home, is that I don't care how much training you have, you know, as a lot of folks will say, that the bad guy has a vote, and if they hear you coming, they can automatically set up their own ambush point. So I reverse that by saying, why not do that yourself? Like you're recommending. You strong point in, you've got your own ambush point, and so
Absolutely.
to speak, the high ground, right? I mean, wouldn't we just, you know, for good old military terms, we always want to have the high ground if possible. And
Yes.
why not have that strong point / high ground versus being on the enemy's terms, right?
And here's another thing to think about in terms of that, man. If I'm in my bedroom and I have done everything that we talked about, and I have made announcements, and this guy's kicking my door in or trying to bust down the door with whatever means he's able, feet, hands, you know, maybe as a weapon. Guess what I just took out of it? The processing whether this person is a threat or not a threat. So
Exactly.
now I'm
Yeah.
ahead of the game, right? I'm walking down my hallway, I'm clearing, I'm doing whatever I need to do, and I turn and I dig a corner or I dig whatever void that's there that I need to clear before I move past, and a person pops up. I now have a whole nother process to decide. Is this person armed? Are they a family member that's drunk that came home? Are they shootable? Are they not shootable? If they're not shootable, how am I going to deal with them, right? And all this is done probably middle of the day where I wasn't expecting it, or middle of the night where I was asleep. So now there's this whole processing period I have to go through, that compared to I'm in my bedroom, this dude has been told, I'm on 911, I'm doing everything I can, I am absolute in fear of my life, and I've met deadly physical force requirements. All I have to do is draw the line in the sand and go, if he gets through that door, I'm going to use deadly force. You know, I've taken everything else out of it. And that is something that you can go to an attorney and say, look, this is what I did and this is why I did it. And I mean, it's going to take all of that out of it compared to you going down a hallway and, hey man, startle effect is a real thing, right? And we come around the corner, oh, boom, and we shoot the wrong person. Now,
Man. Yeah.
let's say they are a burglar, right? May it be justified? Yeah, it may be, right? But is that the legal battle we want to fight for a startle effect? And then you're sitting there probably like, oh my God, it happens. Spontaneous utterance. Oh my God, I shot this guy. I didn't mean to.
Yeah.
That's not
And
something
then
you want to do.
and you gave a prosecutor a wedge into your
Yes,
defense. And
yes,
I think one of the things that we always like to think about is rehearsals, right? So
yeah.
in a sense, Chris, you're giving a recommendation that is already giving folks a rehearsal, you
Mhm.
know, a rehearsal in both their defense and also a rehearsal in being able to articulate legally what they did. So I think
Absolutely.
it's real important, man.
And that brings up a whole nother point, man. And this may be a whole nother discussion later on, but hey, if know your laws of your state and what you can and can use deadly physical force for, right? I teach it for the department, and we've been teaching this block recently. It's basically exactly what we're doing. It's a crisis entry for like emergency hostage rescue for patrol. And I play a couple of videos, and one of them does not look it doesn't look very good because the cops shoot a dude that's not really pointing a gun at anybody. But I go, is this a justified shooting? And the guys will go, well, 50% will say yes, 50% will say no. And I go, okay, for those of you that say no, tell me why. And I do the same thing with the 50% that say yes. Well, he's not pointing a gun at anybody. He's, walking out of the house. All these things are going in the cop's favor. I go, okay, but is the female that's with him free to leave? Well, no. Does he have a firearm? Yes. And we go through all this and they go, oh, and I go, here's why you need to know use of deadly force in our job, because that's articulable, right? There's one case out of Texas, and I don't want to go too far down the rabbit hole, but I'll give you guys an example of this because I think it could very well play out in a civilian role. Car crash, cops are chasing a guy or something like that, and this dude runs into a house. I believe parents are able to get out of the house. He is now inside the house with a 7 or 8-year-old child. No firearm is seen, right? But he keeps coming to the door and using the kid as like a shield, and he's got both hands on the kid, from what I understand. He steps out into the doorway, sniper shoots him, kills him dead. And a lot of people are like, oof, man, he's not armed. And I go, okay, let me ask you this. State of Arizona, he's not of culpable mental state, right? Let's say the kid's 7 years old or younger. Not of capable mental state, so he can't technically articulate that he was in fear for his life. But guess who can? And I'm like, his parents. As a parent, if this guy is in your house holding your child, are you in reasonable apprehension of fear that your child is going to be seriously injured, raped, or killed? And all the parents in the room are like, yeah. I go, then that is absolutely justifiable. And that's why it's so important to understand deadly force in whatever state you live in. And more importantly, how to articulate it, because that could very well be the difference between justified and I'm going to court on this one. I need a good attorney.
Yeah, very good point.
And I didn't mean to go down the use of force.
No, this is perfect, buddy. This is exactly what we wanted to bring out in this discussion.
Let's take a quick break to mention Tenacor, who we're very honored to have as a sponsor of our show. They are the most innovative holster and carry solution producer in the market. Now, my current carry rig is a Glock 48 and a Cartoon 3. I also carry an extra mag in an Abdo AIWB mag pouch. And then, of course, there's the awesome Zero belt. Now, the Cartoon 3 is actually designed well for both appendix or hip inside the waistband carry. The key is the multiple ways you can adjust the camming bar, the cant, and the ride height. This allows it to be actually equally suited for both carry methods. The Abdo mag pouch is equally adjustable and thoughtfully designed. Now the Zero belt. If you don't need a holster, at least grab a Zero belt. There is nothing like it, period. Now, I've just mentioned a few items here, but they have much, much more. And lastly, Tenacor wants you to be satisfied. If you aren't satisfied, they'll refund your money and pay to even have the product sent back to them. You can't lose, so go to Tenacor.com for carry gear that's as good as it gets.
Aaron, I've kind of dominated the discussion, man. What thoughts do you have?
Well, maybe we can at least go down at least a decent understanding of what castle doctrine is in the states that have castle doctrine. Now, I'm no lawyer. I'm not going to claim to be, but it is my understanding that if you live in a state with castle doctrine, the single element of them intending to do you grave daily bodily harm, that is no longer a question when they enter your house. That's one element that is not going to need to be proven if you need to use deadly force. And is that how you guys understand it also?
To a point.
Okay.
Go ahead, Eric.
No, I was actually going to say I want to hear Chris' thoughts on this first.
So it's automatically going to be treated as a homicide, right? If one person kills another person inside, whether it's inside the house or not.
Whether it's justifiable or not. Yeah.
Correct. Now, for the most part, I'm very fortunate. We live in a pretty good state for that, right? Castle doctrine is exactly what you said, Aaron, for the most part, and it also means I have no duty to attempt to retreat outside of my.
That's true.
That's what I was going to bring up, the duty to retreat factor.
Correct. So now what you get is you're involved in a shooting in your home. The police are going to come. More than likely, you're not going to be, let's say, arrested and booked into jail. But there is going to be an investigation. Those charges of homicide are still going to go to either a grand jury or a county attorney for clearance, right? And it's still, your name is still going to be listed on a document that says homicide. Now, whether it's justified or unjustified is dependent upon the investigators and the county attorney and all that stuff. So it's not something that, and again, this is an internet folklore, right? That, hey, I'm in a justified shooting. Why did the cops arrest me and take me to jail and stuff? Well, guess what, man? There's certain states that's just protocol.
Yep.
You know, so don't be mad at the cops when that protocol happens.
That's an interesting point. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just, it is what it is until the investigation is done. That investigation may take 3 months, 6 months, a year, depending on the backlog of the county attorneys. And honestly, if it's something that's pretty clear and cut, it's going to go two ways. It's either going to be done very quickly and you'll get your clearance letter from the county attorney, or it's going to be dragged out because they're like, we don't have to worry about that. That was as clear and clean cut as it gets. And you could have, it sounds dumb, but you could have this pending charge over your head for a year and a half.
But they already said, hey, man, this is cut and dry.
Yeah, but until you get the letter, it's not cut and dry.
And that's what I was going to say. It's like, man, that's something that lingers over you. Yes. No doubt. And Chris, this brings up, I think, what is also another very important thing to address because of the internet, because of, just discussion amongst men, is, and I'm going to piggyback off some things that Craig has said in the past. And it really boils down to, yes, you may have a castle doctrine, but what if there is that person that has made a mistake and has entered your home incorrectly, and using the examples, any of the examples you can bring up, and God forbid it's your child, your teenage child, Secondly, to use one of the examples Craig talks about is that that young teenage boy that's got his gal friend down the street, and he's looking to have a good time and sneaks into the wrong home. Yes. I think it's unfortunate that there's a lot of attitude towards there. It's like, hey, somebody enters my house, they're getting shot. And I think, number one, that's a moral problem. Number two, it could very easily be a legal problem that could land you in jail too. Absolutely. When it's found that clearly, this 16-year-old kid who was not armed broke into your house, but then there's evidence that comes up later that his girlfriend, that he met, at the mall, he'd never been at her house before, but he was in the wrong home.
Absolutely. And how many times a year does that exact headline make the newspaper, make national news? You know what I mean? And that is why I say, man, like, I understand it. If you have kids, there's that immediate level to respond and take care of your children. But if not, the 16-year-old kid's probably not going to come putting his size 12 boot on your door, trying to kick it in, saying, yelling, screaming, threatening you through that door that he's going to kill you or rape you or whatever. He's more probably going to be, if it's your kid that's coming in late at night, who's to say he didn't just forget his key and he's trying to jiggle the back door not to wake up mom and dad because he was out later than he was supposed to, and God forbid something happens. And like you said, he comes in and now you go to blasting because you think it's the right thing to do, and then you just kill your kid or you kill your neighbor's kid. It's not something that a lot of people are going to live with very, very well.
My heart hurts thinking about that exact situation. Yes. I mean, a parent, because you hit it on the head. It happens quite often, and I mean, I cannot imagine that tragedy of taking your own child's life because you hadn't had. And again, we're trying to prep people's mindset here, meaning that some form of a cue that can stop something like that from happening. That's why I think this discussion or discussions like this are so important, because somebody just hearing something can keep them from doing something that could be a tragedy. And I think it's, give pause, make sure that you PID, positively identify, who that may be entering your home, because it just might be your child.
And that just lends to one other thing, and then we can move whatever direction you guys want to do. But when these wrong shootings or unjustified shootings or misidentification shootings, whatever you want to call them, occur, what is the bottom denominator? Somebody went looking to see what the noise was.
Exactly. Yep.
And then they see a silhouette, and it's, oh my God, that startle effect, that freaking I'm scared, I've never been in this position before, and they just start blasting, right? There's no PID, like you said, Eric. It's just sensory overload. They get that adrenaline dump. They probably are in legit fear because it's not something they've ever thought about, and they just go to blasting, and guess what? It's somebody that shouldn't have been shot. And that's why, like, again, if you have kids, I'm all about getting to your kids. But if you are a 25-year-old dude that lives by himself, 45-year-old family that's got all their kids out of the house, man, think about the consequences and what can go wrong, especially if we all train, right? We train a lot, especially if you don't have that, what's the word I'm looking for? Basically, inoculation, the stress inoculation for those types of scenarios, right? Where you can process information during stress. If you've never done that, it's probably not the time to go clearing your house when you're alone.
Yeah.
Well, this may to some sound, number one, elementary, number two, to some may sound silly, but I really like one of the dry fire drills that Claude Warner, and I'll see if I can find it because it's very germane to the discussion. And that is that you add to your dry fire regiment doing low light dry fire, but also when you're using your handheld flashlight, even articulating things. Hey, who's there? Dad, it's me. Oh, okay. All right, son, you screwed up. Get your ass to bed. Even just thinking about those things in dry fire can make the difference between tragedy and not. And then, obviously there's all kinds of permutations that you can use in that simple drill. But then you also can say, okay, who's there? Oh, it's a threat. And then you can take your, shot on your designated target, what have you. I'm just giving a basic scenario.
It's no different than working structure clearing with cops, where what's the first thing we should do? By law, we should absolutely first announce, sheriff's office, is there anybody inside, right? That puts us at a disadvantage, but it's a legal requirement unless we're meeting exigent circumstances where we don't have the time to announce, right? But for the most part, it's no different than that. Hey, who's that in my house? You know what I mean? And if you don't get a response, or you get some kind of aggressive response from there, use that light. Hey, that light in the, as dumb as it sounds, the old Surefire advertisement, right? Mm-hmm. That light down the hallway might be enough to take their vision away for a split second and give you that half a second to PID. Or it might be just enough for them to say, hey, you know what? This guy's got a flashlight. He's probably a little more prepared than I was expecting. And I'm bailing the hell out of here.
Yep, exactly. You know? At a minimum, it's going to disrupt their OODA loop.
Yes.
And like you said, man, it possibly may end the situation. Just like when we managing unknown contacts and say, hey, buddy, back up. You know, disrupts their thought process. Yeah, this guy may know more or may be more prepared than I am prepared. This is a harder payday than I was expecting, so I'm going to move on. Well, that's awesome.
Well,
go ahead, Aaron.
Maybe I could just. I don't want to interrupt the thought, Chris. If you have one that's along with what Eric's saying.
I was just going to ask if I answered your question because we kind of went on a tangent there.
Yes,
absolutely.
You did. Okay. So as I'm hearing you guys talk about this, and especially the angles aspect, that's a great thing to think about, because I have not. Now I've thought about it in a different way, but so I am on one end of my house, and my two teenage boys are on the other end of the house. And I am at a point where I will have to go into a 180 angle situation. And I do keep on ambient light, so I should have a good idea of how to ID. Now, I guess that so two things that I have to do is that I will have to go across my house to get to my boys. And so that's not something I get to forego. But I'll tell you what, I am looking forward to I'm not looking forward to my boys being gone, but I am looking forward to the less complicated security situation when I can lock my door every single night and have an AR and some armor right next to my bed, where if things go bad, I've got that extra bit of security that it's going to at least make a lot of noise to get someone to get into the house. They just can't walk in my door like they kind of can now, because I don't lock my doors just in case my boys need to get in.
Right. Yeah. But that's something like a lot of people don't think about. They think, oh, I'll just go to my kid's room. Well, no, there's going to come a point where you're going to need to take a pause and go, do I hear anything? Do I see any shadows? And if not, how am I going to deal with this 180, 200 degree space? And that doesn't include all the other angles, because now you're talking about, if you have rooms off of that 180, now you have a doorway that's deep. So am I looking deep into those corners? Because they may be able to see me, but unless I'm looking deep, I may not see that person that's hiding in that room, right? So there's all this different stuff that when you really start doing structure clearing and you look at structures from that point, you're like, man, this was really bad. So the best way to defeat that, to get to your kids, is going to be with speed, right? Yeah. You come up, you pause, you look. I don't hear anything. I don't see anything immediately. I'm hauling ass as fast as I can, and that might be something you talk to your kids about and say, hey, if you hear a loud crash, if you hear something and you believe somebody's in the house, we're going into oldest boy's room, or we're going into youngest boy's room. And then I know I'm going to one room. Yeah. I know I am going to Johnny's room, who's the 17-year-old that can protect the 12-year-old, something like that. So I know, hey, number one, he's 17. He's probably mature enough where he can tell the kid, hey, man, we're staying here till dad or mom get here, or mom and dad get here. Right.
Dude, I'll tell you, these days, I don't think very many people want to tangle with my boys.
Well trained and fit, strong. Yes. Yeah.
But I'll just brag on my boys a little bit. But and so this, I don't want to skip ahead, guys. Now, are we? Well, let me just ask a question. You can say we can forego it for now, but my question is here. Hold on a second.
He's getting his AR. I knew it.
So if I have time, this SBR is what I am grabbing.
Absolutely.
And I have this weapon mounted light on it, momentary only. My plan is not to point that at anyone. It's to splash from the floor. Now,
Yep.
Because I don't want to muzzle anybody, and I can from even real low ready, I can get on shot, less than half a second, right? So that begs the question: what kind of techniques do you guys teach when it comes to light discipline and using weapon mounted lights?
So that is kind of one of those, man, like shooter's choice, we'll call it.
Mm-hmm.
In a team environment, like when we're dominating a structure, most of the time, the first several guys that go in, because there's no backlighting, because they're the first initial push, lights on. We want as much information coming at us as possible. Single man, 2-man, 3-man CQB for structure clearing for patrol deputies or for civilians or citizens. It's flash, search, identify where you're going, and go. Some guys will go lights on. I really don't care. It depends on the environment, right? Down a hallway, where I might get to that 180 or something like that, or I'm coming to a hard 90. I may stay white light all the way till the end of that, because I want to see if somebody pops out of that 90 or that 180. And then if it's a 90, I want to get out, because in my house it's kind of messed up the way it's set up. But as I'm pushing down that hallway, I can cover long with that white light, and all I have to do is when I get there is worry about that hard dig on the 90, right? So I come up, I see I'm clear long, and boom, all I need to do is drive that light to the hard corner, and I can see. So I may vary. I may go constant on, and then I may come to a section of my house where I'm like, hey, I'm not comfortable with this. I'm in an open area of, say, my living room. I can push across that without my light on, dig deep into my kitchen, scan that area, light off, and then push across. And then kind of like the way my house is set up, the laundry room's kind of in the back off my dining room, and I can push and clear that, right? So I may use a variation of both. And again, now let's say in your situation where you're pushing through a hallway to get to your kid's room, are you bypassing doors down a hallway to get to your kid's room?
So my biggest area would be the front of my house, which has a room, and then my kitchen, which is really open.
Okay.
So am I passing straight by doors? Not necessarily. Once I get into the area where my boys are, there's a bathroom there.
Okay.
So yes, there's some things to cover there, but the issue with my house is it's such an open floor plan. My estimation is that I will probably, especially the way invasions work usually, it's probably going to be fairly easy for me to take in everything because of my open plan.
Yeah, then it might be best for you to just go hard white light, and then if you have to drive across something, because you know your house pretty well, right? Go light off, push to the next area, rescan, and then push through. One of the big things that we started doing, and we found very effective, is what light do you have on your rifle?
Man, it is an in-force.
Okay. So is it one of the newer ones, like the 800 lumen?
Actually, no, this is an old one. I think I need to get another one, but it's just the one that I have it on a thorn tail at 45-degree angle. It's
Gotcha.
great for where I can touch here. It's
Yep.
bright. I think it's bright enough for my house, but I could probably use a little bit more.
Yeah.
But
So for what, believe it or not, man, what we do is, I don't want to get too much into tactics or anything like that, but bad guy's in your house. He's probably not turning lights on. He's probably using whatever ambient light is in the house, right? So if you have a bright flashlight and you're pushing through and all of a sudden that light goes off, it's probably going to kill his night vision for a minute. So you're going to have about a 1 to 3 second window to be able to move without him necessarily having good vision, or vision enough to pick up fine details. And in really, really dark houses, that's one of the things that we do. We transition between night vision and white light. And literally there are people sitting in rooms. We'll push up to a doorway under nods. And again, this isn't relative to here, but it's telling you kind of something you could think about. Push up to a doorway and we'll hit that with like 1,000 lumen light, splash that room, then we go off. And we'll put people in the room. We'll be like, hey, shoot us when we come in. We'll hit it with the white light, and then we'll go under nods. And guys are like, I couldn't even see you guys because you took my vision away for that. It's usually about 2 seconds where they're just seeing those spots. And then they slowly get their vision back, but still it's not going to be 100% if they're in full darkness. So that's something. If you're coming up to a doorway, you're bypassing doors, and there's ambient light, like you're saying, Aaron, where you can see, like, that's my living room, dining room area, and I need to get to that. When I'm coming up to a door, hit that light, hit that room that you're passing with white light. Light goes off, move past it.
Yeah.
Cool. And it'll take the possibility of taking that vision away if there's somebody in there.
Yeah. And even if I missed them, it's going to give me a couple of seconds to move to my boy's room.
Exactly. And hopefully use your hearing to pick up any crazy shit that's going on too.
Yeah. Cool.
So, very good discussion. Awesome content. I really enjoy when shows like this come together that I know is going to be beneficial, not just to our audience, but for us as well, because it just brings up other thought processes and great content, buddy. So I would like to digress a second.
Okay.
And that brings us to the point where not all home invasions happen at night. As a matter of fact, to my understanding, statistically, they don't happen at night near as much as people think. My understanding is they happen more in the daytime because criminals are trying to come to your home when you're not there. Correct. But what if you are home? So I think that brings up to the point where I know my thought process on I like to be armed, until I go to bed. I like to have a pistol on me. Right now I moved it from appendix just sitting in this chair, but I at least have my Glock 43 on me. Here we go. To at least have something. Now I prefer to have my 19 on me most of the time, but right now I'm in workout pants, and so that's what I've got on. But I think that brings up to the point where, Chris, do folks need to make that decision? Because, if somebody decides to kick your door in the middle of the afternoon and you're not close to a weapon and they happen to have a weapon, that could be a problem, right?
Absolutely. I'm 100% like you guys. I am armed all the time. And, people call me paranoid, whatever. I walk around, I'm out in my barbecue grill. My Glock 17's hanging out of my pants pocket, or out of the front of my pocket, my front of my pants, appendix style. And, I'm sometimes, it's Arizona and I'm shirtless and my gun's visible, and it's like, hey, man, I've carried a gun for my entire adult life. Why would I go to a lesser condition of readiness when I get home? I don't think that's not paranoia. That's just, it's a part of my life, right? It is if I go somewhere without a gun, I'm like, man, I forgot something, and it is a thing where I am it's bothering me.
Yep.
Like we've literally turned around and I've been like, nope, I forgot my gun. I'm running home to grab it. Because it's that much of an importance for me. Now, if that does happen and it's the middle of the day and they break in and they're armed, this may absolutely be the time where you're like, I'm beating feet out of here if you're the only person in the house.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Egress out of there.
Absolutely. Especially if for some reason, depending on how your house is set up, they come over a back wall, they kick in. A lot of master bedrooms have doors to them out leading to the outside, right? They kick in your master bedroom door where maybe you left your gun and you're like, oh, shoot, somebody's in my room. Get the hell out. Just run away. There's nothing wrong with doing the Nike retreat if everything else fails. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And Chris, you bring up an important point. One of our agreements, my wife and I, because we spend a lot of time in the living room together, and we have a reinforced door. We have a reinforced door in the front. Full disclosure, I hadn't done it in the back yet. That's on the to-do list to make sure I get that squared away. But the front door, if somebody's coming in the front door, we're going to have notice because they aren't kicking that door down anytime soon if they even can. But with that said, that is already in our lexicon. My wife and I are like, she knows that if something like that was to take place, we are egressing out the backyard. And I have some really good angles in the backyard if necessary. And we can hold that ground and or egress completely out of the backyard, so. But yeah, that's important for people to have that a part of their plan. And, that also is part of our plan upstairs. We have the capabilities to egress out of our house, from a window using a fire ladder.
Yes.
There's two locations that we have the capabilities. Your thoughts on that?
That's absolutely the direction I wanted to go with this, right?
Oh, sorry, buddy, if I skipped over.
No, not at all, man. This is kind of what I wanted to lead into. Is it's funny you talk about the whole hardening of the front door because a couple of months ago SWAT hit a house in downtown Phoenix. It was a case we were working, and fortunately, this dude just didn't want to bang it out that day, man. And we hit the door, we breached the door, make entry, go in, and I took a picture of it. It's on my phone somewhere, but this dude had it's like a plate that screws down in front of your front door, and you just tap on it like a pressure plate, and it pushes up to like an angle like this, and this is a solid point, and this goes up right up against your door. So if somebody's trying to kick your door in, the door's not budging. And when you're not using it, you just press it down and it flattens out. You can open the door, and I'm like, and I want one of those for my house.
Yeah. Yeah.
This thing, you harden your door frame and you put one of those in, man, they're probably not getting through that door without breaching tools. Some kind of hard breach, sledgehammer, something other than a foot, which most guys use to breach doors when they're burglars, right? The other thing, man, is having that egress, whether it be first floor or second floor. Second floor, man, not a lot of people think about it. Having that ladder, yeah, 2 stories up. Can I jump out of the window and survive? Absolutely. Can I survive without broken bones? Maybe. Okay. But I think you guys have a bunch of medical training like me too. 2-story fall is what considered major trauma to the body, right? Anything over, I think it's anything over 10 feet.
Yep.
They say like, hey man, you're basically mechanism of injury, and you need to be checked very, very well. Do you want your 7-year-old going out a 2nd-story window without some kind of ascending device? And that's absolutely awesome that you guys have that ladder. Now, just having it doesn't mean we're proficient at it, right? We need to practice with it, teach the kids, hey man, you know what, we're going to spend 10 minutes going down this ladder so that it's the first time they do it isn't during a fire or during a home invasion, right? Or burglary in progress.
Because let me say, it's not easy.
No.
It's not easy.
Nope. But that's all part of the home preparedness thing that people don't think about. Like, hey, have I thought about if I get upstairs and things are really bad? Let's talk about, just to go back on this for a minute. This dude makes entry into your house. You're strong pointed in your upstairs bedroom. You're on the phone with the police. The police happen to get there because this guy's concentrated on getting to you, but you've been lucky he didn't make entry into your bedroom. Cops show up. Now he's barricaded in your bedroom, or I'm sorry, in your lower portion of your house, and maybe even thinking about taking you hostage, but you've got the means to lock down your bedroom door and stuff. They're not getting through. Do you want to have to wait till the cops get there to exit that house, SWAT or whatever, an emergency exfil? No. Let's say this guy is completely nuts and decides, you know what, today's the day, man. I broke into this house. I have a rap sheet. I'm going to prison for the rest of my life. I'm going to burn the house down. Don't think that doesn't happen.
Very damn good point, buddy.
Know what I mean? I need to be able to get my family out of that house because it happens, man. We've had several of them here in my county alone where guys are like, you know what? Screw it. I'm burning the house. And if I die, I die. And I tell you what, man, that's not a way I want to go. So that emergency forethought to think about, hey, how am I going to get out of this second story window and practice with it is an absolute thing that people don't think about for home security.
Yeah. Yeah. And to your point about fire security, man, I mean, folks need to be prepared. If you have a fire start downstairs, you have to have a means to get out of your window, get out of your house, or else it could be tragic. So, folks need to be concerned about that. And those, I forget what I paid for that ladder. It's been many years since I got it. It's not too expensive.
No, they're not. I think they're probably less than $100.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I think it was right at like $99. I just seem to have in the back of my head. I need to get another one since my son and his family and with our grandson come here a lot more. I want to have another one staged in their area in the guest room. So I'm going to get another one.
Sorry, I'm just going to look at what we had listed, guys. Just real quick. Aaron, do you have anything? You're just, I feel like Eric.
No, I'm letting you guys drive the bus because I'm having a good time just listening to all the great points. If I have something to say or ask, man, I'll do it.
Well, Chris, let's talk about it this way. So we've talked about probably, in my opinion, and it sounds to me, and you're more the expert than we are. It sounds like we've enunciated a better thought process tactically, for folks to consider in their home. But do we want to move down to, maybe just a fairly quick, 15, 20-minute summary of what folks can do to improve the security, the deterrence, the denial around their house? Do you want to maybe go down that road maybe?
Before we do that, can we just hit on some ideas for what may be a good choice for personal protection as far as weapons?
Absolutely. I stand corrected. Yes, absolutely. No, I think that's actually more important in this juncture, and then we can hit on just the highlights of the other preparation. Go ahead, buddy. Absolutely.
The only reason I want to bring this up, I watched a video on YouTube, believe it or not, and it was with a very popular training group talking about weapons inside, weapons, for home defense. And one of the persons in this discussion stated that if they had the choice between a rifle, let's say a 5.56 carbine, and a pistol, they would choose the pistol because the 9mm penetrates less than the 5.56. And I was like, that has absolutely been proven false. And as
multiple
far
times
as,
over.
yes. So for those people that are listening, if you go somewhere and somebody tells you, oh, just get a 9mm, it'll stay inside your house or whatever, that is absolutely false. 5.56 with the right ammunition will penetrate only a couple of walls because of velocity and fragmentation, compared to a 9mm, which will travel through houses.
Yep.
I see it all the time. So ideally, if you have the ability, a 5.56 pistol or a 5.56 rifle, I think is probably the preferred home defense weapon, because it's minimum 30 rounds, right? And I can if I live in a state that is restrictive, I can get 10-round magazines for it. I can get 20-round magazines for it. I can get 30-round magazines. Hell, I can get 60-round magazines for it, right? It's easier to shoot. It's easier to teach people to shoot than a pistol. Yes, it's loud, but today suppressors are pretty prevalent in a lot of states. I would say that if you are going to have one for home defense, it's probably invest the money in a suppressor.
Yep.
Or at least keep, it sounds dumb, people, oh, I'm not going to put hearing protection on. Guess what? Put hearing protection on if you're going through your house with a 5.56 gun.
Yep.
If you have time and it's going a lot, especially if it's electric, you're going to have some bionic hearing too.
There you go.
And add to it, if you have Bluetooth capabilities, you can have your phone connected to 911 with that hearing protection.
Absolutely.
Real quick on your point about ammunition. Now, what I choose indoors is this Federal load with 77 grain Match King. It is not barrier blind, but it's going to do pretty good against two-legged predators.
And it'll do very well against two-legged predators.
And so I choose that. I mean, I have other loads that are barrier blind, but and make no mistake, anyone that's listening, just because I have a projectile that's not going to barrel through a ton of walls, I'm not just going to point this at my boys' walls thinking, hey, it's not going to over penetrate. It's still going to be lethal going through that wall. But the point is, compared to 9mm, all we're saying is that this is safer than 9mm when it comes to over penetration. That's all we're saying. No rounds safe shooting through walls, but there can be safer rounds to choose, right? Yeah, that's all.
5.56 will definitely penetrate drywall, no problem. It'll penetrate some 2x4s, no problem, especially depending on the load. But comparatively, it's going to penetrate less than a 9mm, a 40, a 45. An AK, no, it's probably not going to penetrate less. An AK is going to penetrate much more. The heavy calibers are going to blast through some walls. But if I had the choice, it would be some type of 5.56, right? They're soft for women to shoot. They're, easier for people to shoot. They're easier for people to learn to shoot. I can put a red dot and a light on them, and I can literally get into that strong point and just be like, okay, I've got at least 30 rounds of ammunition on me. And most bad guys, if you start slinging lead at them as they're coming through a doorway, they're not going to want to sit there and just take rounds from a rifle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, pistol-wise, again, 9mm, and if you live in a state that allows it, high capacity, right? High capacity of at least, if you can, 12 to 15 rounds. I think for a personal defense weapon, a home defense weapon, a weapon-mounted light is absolutely mandatory, right? And it can sit in a holster if you have children high up in a location they can't reach at, or if you're there by yourself, or it's just you and a spouse. You can leave it on a dresser. You can keep it on you. When you go to sleep, you can set it by the dresser and things like that. Now, we don't need to go all crazy about like, oh, well, I'd carry, this weapon for this and this. It's like, hey, man, you guys get your rifles ready. You hear that bang. And if for some reason you need to make crisis entry to your kid's room, snatch that thing up, and I've got everything I need, right? I've got plenty of ammo, I've got a white light and some type of optic. You're both running optics on your guns.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's all I need for 99% of the situations a citizen of this country is going to encounter inside their home, right? Mm-hmm. Unless we're fighting off like, World War Z or something like that, then we're all screwed anyways. But
and Chris, I want to drive home that point what you just said about running a white light. I mean, you need to have a white light on your AR. If you're not running an optic, you should be, but
yes.
At a minimum, you need to have a light source. Would you agree?
Yeah, it's funny, man, because an instructor that that's near and dear to my heart, we've had this conversation, and he would always ask students, like, hey, what's the first thing you should put on a carbine when you get one that will absolutely enhance your ability for self-defense? And he says a red dot. I say a white light.
I agree completely.
I understand his theory from his background that the aim point is, or EOTech or whatever, will enhance hit capability. What is it, like 78% or something like that? But for the average citizen in the United States, what's more important than that? Personally identifying the threat, So I think a white light, iron sights we've been shooting iron sights in this country for 245 years, right? Or some type of, since the invent of weapons, we've been using iron sights of some sort. So an AR, a CAR 15 with a white light, to me, will be just as effective at the house distances I'm shooting. Now, a red dot will only enhance that. But do I need to go out and buy a $700 aim point to put on my gun when I have a good set of iron sights? No. Go out and spend $250 on a Surefire or a Streamlight or something like that and put that on the gun, and just take the rest of the money you were going to spend and buy some ammo and go practice. And especially if you're not a shooter, an avid shooter like us, you want it for self-defense. You're going to go plink with it a little bit. Spend that money on ammo. Go to the range, understand your holdovers, understand the zero, and manipulate the gun. And that'll serve you well, again, for 99% of the things that we're going to encounter now as finances increase. You want to put a red dot on it? Great, go for it.
Good tips, buddy. Awesome. Well, Aaron, what else you got, man?
Well, guys, what about techniques to harden your house for of course, deterrence, denial, and your stronghold in your house?
Man, before we get into like hardening the home, I'm just going to talk about some other things. One of the biggest things is lighting, right?
Big time.
Motion detectors are great at deterrence. And exterior lighting is one of the best things that you can do, because bad guys want to do what? They want to stay in the shadows, right? Yep. They want to maintain their invisibility. They don't want to be seen, because guess what? If they're seen, they're identified. So excess lighting on a house will go a long way to keeping people away. Next to that, I would say you can buy high quality exterior and interior cameras now for pretty damn cheap, and you get remote access to them. I think that's one of the biggest things that people can do to add security to their house. And I wasn't really either for them or against them. I'm just, as you guys know, I'm not a tech guy, right? So, but I spend a lot of time in Texas. My buddy he lives pretty much out in the middle of nowhere. He lives on like 25 acres in the middle of Texas. And he has a badass camera system on his house. And as people are coming up the driveway, he can go, boom, okay, that's Chris coming in the driveway. Or, hey, who is this car coming up? And then what also happens is he has motion detectors around his house that activate the cameras. And they have like a 30-second back play. So as the camera goes off, the light goes off, the camera started recording 30 seconds ago, if that makes sense. It's kind of like a body cam where it gets 30 seconds of back play. So if there's somebody on the exterior of his house, it's picking that up, and then he can go, why is this person on my property? Who are they? And that leads into being able to go, hey man, this person shouldn't be on my property. Do I need to send my family into my master bedroom to lock down? And I'm either going to confront them from inside my house, or am I going to call the cops? So there's a lot of benefits to those cameras, especially with the invent of having it go right to your phone, right? You're away from your house, something goes off, you see somebody breaking in your house, you can immediately start the cops that way. And man, you get, I hate to say this, but we see this all the time with search warrants in the middle of the night when we hit a house on a doper. They have better camera systems than our sheriff's office. And, we go in there and I'm like, man, this is great, because they're in their bedroom, they hear a noise, they look at the camera. Most of the times they see it's the cops, realize they're not getting ripped or whatever, and they either decide to barricade or not barricade or whatever. But as Joe Citizen in the US, they hear a loud noise, boom, they sit up in bed, they can turn the cameras on right to their TV and see exactly what's going on around their house, which will also give them the tactical advantage to, I need to get to my kid's room ASAP and lock down there, or, hey, the raccoon knocked over the trash can and everything's good, So I think cameras are a huge, huge benefit to people in today's America, man. I really do.
Well, Chris, if I could add one little bit of perspective to that, and it's not quite the same thing, but in basic infantry terms, from a soldier standpoint, you're going to have rings of security.
Yes.
And to me, what the camera is to the soldier is what your LPOP is as a soldier. You got patrols out beyond your perimeter. You got
Absolutely.
Listening posts. You got observation posts out there that's detecting enemy personnel early before they get to your inner perimeter. You need to consider cameras as sort of that. There's more
Absolutely.
to it than that. But I mean, I like to bring that perspective. The cameras are your LPOP to give that term to it.
Yeah, that's, and all these things are, like you said, those rings. We big rings combined upon smaller rings to make that 360-degree security. The next thing, like hardening the home, man. Like those plates, those floor plates I was talking about. Something as simple as and I can't remember what the hell they're called. We use them for SWAT. I have some here at the house. It's literally a little doorstop. It's got a rubber butt on it, and it's probably about 3x3 or whatever. Man, if you don't want to go through the money of screwing down a plate that pops up and does all this cool stuff, get one of those. You go to sleep at night, just kick it in your front door, right? So if there is an emergency where you need to get out of your house, all you need to do is come up, kick that thing to the side, and you can open your door immediately. But somebody coming in, it's going to buy you some extra time. And I think they're like $7 on Amazon or something. And I'll go out and grab mine if you guys want them for the call notes, and I'll text it to you later. So
Absolutely. I'd love to see it. And Chris, I take similar kick stops when I travel, for business, especially overseas. I'm always thinking about those things. But any of these offerings that you want me to put in the show notes.
Oh yeah, I'm
awesome.
really interested in that.
Yeah,
I hadn't even thought about that. Yeah,
man. I mean, and it's something like the ones I use are high visibility yellow for the house. So you just walk up, you see it, you just kick it out of the way. The other thing, man, is
that's really good, man.
In Arizona, with the sun the way it is, exterior screens, the sunscreen, so you can see out but you can't see in, are great, man. I like them, and it's an added level of something that they're going to have to get through if somebody's trying to get in your house. And if you know your neighbors, and somebody's out trying to remove one of your sunscreens in the middle of the day, your neighbors might go, this isn't somebody I recognize. I probably want to call the cops, or at least yell to this guy and say, hey, what the hell are you doing? And then call you or a family member and say, hey, this guy's trying to get into your house. Who knows? It may be a maintenance guy, right? But it's it's a precursor to thinking ahead of like, hey, they can be expensive, but I think they're a benefit. They keep your house cooler in the summer. We use them out here in Arizona. I think the little dowels that you stick in your windows to keep people from opening them, that's an absolute.
I'm looking at mine right now in this particular window. Yeah.
Yeah, man. And are they going to probably smash the window? Yeah, they may if they can't get the window open. But guess what? Climbing through a broken shard glass window is not something I want to do. So that's another deterrent, is just not able to open that window and lock your shit when it comes down to it. Just make sure your stuff's locked.
Absolutely.
And that includes, I am absolutely. I can't remember where I saw it. I thought one of you guys posted it, and it might have been in the show notes. It was in the show notes. But like, man, I am not a fan of keeping garage door openers in a car.
Yeah, absolutely
not. Just because we've seen, and when I say we, I mean that law enforcement has seen the way these guys are able to defeat RFI and stuff like that, and come into your house based off of the shit that you leave in your car, and I was out in Texas with this organization, and they were showing me some technology that you can just buy on the internet that they can defeat pretty much anything now. And it's absolutely scary, man. And I don't even have garage door openers for my house, just because I don't even want to deal with it, in any of my vehicles. I just have the interior ones that I push. I do keep my, the rope for the garage door opener. I keep that tied up so nobody can just go in there and grab it. And I know it's weird, man, but we don't use our garage a lot just because my vehicles don't fit in there, and I have my gym in there.
Yeah,
I take freaking like screwdrivers or dowels, like metal dowels, and I'll stick them in the holes of the garage. So if somebody is able to at least get under there and pry it up, they're only getting it open about that much,
Yeah, and Chris, I really want to drive the point around the garage. Folks out there that are listening to this, that may have not thought about this before, that garage door being closed seems to be what most people believe is a real barrier. And it really isn't. It's not hard to get into that garage door. So what folks end up doing is they end up leaving their garage, their interior door unlocked. Oh, my garage door is down. That's a no-go.
Yeah.
It's easy to get into that garage door. So folks, please, like Chris just mentioned, keep all your doors and your windows locked, but don't feel comfortable with leaving your garage door unlocked at any instance, just because your garage door is closed.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Chris.
And I just want to say a couple things. Yeah. My garage door, the one that's inside that is into my house, I've got an automatic lock on that because I got tired of telling my family, of course, my boys, to lock the dang door. So it automatically locks. But I was going to say real quick, Chris, because you brought up your gym, there might be some loud noises going on through my microphone, audience and you guys, because my 13-year-old is setting up a squat rack as we speak, and I keep hearing this crap banging in the garage because the garage is just right in front of me here.
I don't hear anything, man.
I don't either, but I'm pumped for your guys' garage gym. We can maybe hit on that towards the close.
Yeah. But just to discuss the garage thing one more time, I know it was happening here where we're at a couple years ago. I don't know if it's still a thing or not, but guys were actually driving down neighborhoods, just hitting a generic garage door opener, seeing what garage doors were opening, and it was a lot more common than you would think. So just keep that in mind, and that's, I mean, we could go on and on, but these are the baselines of security you should do for your house. One of the best things you can do, get a dog.
Absolutely.
Not only are they great deterrents, but bad guys would literally rather be shot than deal with a dog, and we see it all the time. You're pointing guns at bad guys, and they're like, yeah, whatever. You pull out a freaking 60-pound Malinois or German Shepherd, and dudes are like, all right, man,
Yeah.
I ain't getting chewed on. You know?
Yeah, and you again, that is part of that being, detecting is huge. I mean, you're asleep.
Yes.
I mean, I tell you, even, we've got a couple of dogs. We don't have the German Shepherd we used to,
Right.
and even in our dingo mix that we used to have, man, that dog was an awesome,
Yeah.
an awesome deterrence. But what's funny is we got a beagle and we have a pug. And I guarantee you, at a minimum, my pug, he hears anything, he's barking, and I at least know. So, yes, I'm telling on myself, I don't have a serious security dog, but he doesn't let anything past him. He's letting me know.
There's two things that will stop a SWAT team cold in their tracks and that's a big dog or a freaking vicious chihuahua, man. We laugh about it all the time. We'll come into a house and there's a pit bull that's staring at us. And we're like, oh god dang, Or you come into a house and there's this just fearless chihuahua, man, that thinks he's Godzilla, and you're like, oh god, trying to protect your ankles. And even if nothing else, it's a deterrent or it's a distractor, even more so, And hey, man, some people just have a fear of dogs, but that's really as far as a baseline that I would say as far as hardening the house. Lights, locks, cameras, if you can do those things and just general awareness of what's normal in your neighborhood, you're 95% better than the rest of the world.
Well, and that brings to the point that if you're aware and your house looks hardened, even
Yes.
with signs. I mean, you brought up the dog. I know it seems trite, but making sure you have security signs, that show that you at least feign have an alarm. An alarm system is obviously everybody should have an alarm system if they can, but even just having the signs out and, beware of dog signs go somewhere with deterring people. And Chris, if I can bring up one thing, you mentioned hardening the door, and one, I know exactly what device you're talking about. I've considered getting one of those to just add to my my reinforcement, but I've got a system called it's Armor Concept Door. It's Armor Max Door Reinforcement. It's only $99, and I guarantee you, people are not going to kick my door in, unless what you said, unless they have breaching tools, and it's only you just having a a means, an electric screwdriver, so on and so forth, is going to help you install this kit. So reinforces the hinges and the kick plate and all of it. So
it's amazing what a good set of like extra long screws will do to keep your door from getting kicked in or the door frame getting kicked in.
Yeah, you hit it on the head, buddy. If folks out in the audience do one thing, they can go out and buy 3-inch, 4-inch screws to replace their hinge screws and their kick plate screws.
Yeah, absolutely. And that will pay dividends, man, because those things, we've encountered them. And next thing you know, you're trying to get through the door frame, not just the door. So
yeah. Awesome.
Sure.
Well, Chris, even though there's probably some other things we can hit on there, if folks take that triad there that you just suggested, start. We always see this on this show. Just start with one of them,
Absolutely.
and gradually build on it. Keep your notebook like we always talk about, and check off the next one and just build on it.
Yeah, 100%. Just to kind of finish it out, I know Eric, you're on the East Coast, so you're a little further ahead of us.
I'm good,
time.
buddy.
Okay. Just some supplemental things to keep in the event of just today's general. Yeah, I know we're talking specifically home security, but home security, worst case scenario, home invasion, right? But let's just talk about some things that are going on across the country right now. Hell, you experienced it pretty much personally with the blackouts, and call it what it is, but there's some kind of terror attack going on our grid system right now.
Yep. All over the United States.
Yeah, there was right after the one in North Carolina, there was one in California, then there was one in Oregon and one in Washington, and now recently, I guess within the past 24 hours, there's been another 5 attacks in Washington. That one left 14,000 people without power. Before I go into that, I want to, and I'm getting all this information. I know the news is the news, right? But I follow this thing called Gray Man Brief, and it's you have to have it gets delivered to you on either Signal or what's the other one? There's Signal, there's Telegram. They will only send it to secure encrypted message things. Man, I don't know where they're getting their information from. They have to have somebody in the intelligence community.
Nice.
Because the information they are putting out is phenomenal. It's on Instagram at like Grayman Brief. And then
we'll look it up and put it in the show notes. Absolutely, buddy.
That sounds awesome.
Man, so I was reading some of the stuff and I was like, you know what? And I went to the website and it's $50 a year subscription. And I'm like, man, I spend $50, like a week on stupid food while I'm working. I can spend $50 to get some legit information if it pays off. Guys, I will tell you.
Brief, yeah.
I will tell you right now, spend the $50 and it comes through at least once a day. Sometimes they'll update active situations by the minute. And that's where I'm getting all this information on these grid hits that are going on and a bunch of other stuff across the country and across the world. So it's absolutely worth it. And as far as the home awareness, it talks about things going on in neighborhoods, hot spots around the country, things that the regular media is just not even touching on. So that is another layer of that home security that we can talk to about awareness, not only in your neighborhood, but out in your town, your city, your county, your state, and just nationally, because what we're seeing is now trends, right? Start on the East Coast, went to California, now it's traveling up the West Coast. Who knows before it hits, central U.S. As far as these grid attacks. But not to veer off from the supplement stuff, but I think that's a very, very worthy supplemental thing that you can add. It comes to your phone.
Well, Chris, if I can add one thing to that. To my knowledge, no suspects have been found in any of these particular instances.
Oh.
So what that tells me, and I'm not going to, and I'm not law enforcement, I'm, former soldier, nothing sexy, but that starts making me think that there's a little more sophistication behind this than folks may understand.
100%. It's coordinated, man. This is absolutely national, regionalized attacks on our grid system that are being coordinated by a group, be it large or small, of people that are looking to do intent harm to this country.
Well, and if I can add, and I'm sorry, Chris, I cut you off.
Oh, no, you're fine.
All it should take, to my understanding, is 20 substations.
Yes.
And it can bring down our whole grid. And my understanding is it could take up to 2 years to recover a grid system that's down. Yeah.
You read that?
Yeah.
Okay.
I always love having you on, man, because it's so cool to see how much you and I think alike, man.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're absolutely right, man. And that to me is scary, because somebody's doing some intelligence gathering, knowing what our weaknesses are and knowing how far behind we are on the ability to repair that if that stuff gets damaged far enough. Right.
Yeah.
So again, and we could go on for hours on this show, man, but supplemental stuff. have med gear. I know it sounds weird to have like a bag or a plate carrier. I know, Aaron, I think you said you had armor, correct?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Have a med
I've got
kit on
mine
there.
next to my bed as well. Yep.
That's APC, man. Nice.
Well, see, I've got a brother. I just asked him what I should get, and then I didn't realize what he was suggesting that I get was like top-notch technology. I've got stop shop polyurethane plates that'll take multiple shots from 308 to slugs. Yeah, dude, this is legit. And without my extra mags, this thing is as light as a lot of people's soft armor. So yeah, dude, it's awesome.
Legit.
That's badass.
I've got a bro that always sends me in the right direction.
Hey man, half of going fast is looking fast, right? But no, man, medical gear. The last thing we want is for somebody in the home to be involved in some kind of confrontation and then not be able to treat them or save them because we don't have medical gear present. And that goes for just general emergencies, right? How many times?
Absolutely.
I can't tell you how many times we've responded as deputies to calls where avocados. We went through this phase, man, where everybody was cutting their veins and their arteries because they were cutting avocados.
Oh, wow.
I can't tell you how many tourniquets I applied because people cut their hands, cut their wrists, cut their arms, trying to get the pit out of the avocado. Next thing you know, they got a knife that's just peeling their arm wide open.
It's not funny, but it is funny.
Yeah, you're like an avocado, man. Here lies John Rambo, Congressional Medal of Honor winner, killed in Jerkwater, USA, by peeling an avocado. And but seriously, and have that gear, know how to use it because you just never know. And again, those layers, that home security goes beyond just firearms and CQB and protecting. It's about medical gear, protecting our families on a wide variety of issues. Same with you and I were talking about fire extinguishers. Yep. How many people have fire extinguishers?
I was looking for my ankle kit that this dude sent me.
Oh, there you go, man. Hopefully you guys are loving them.
It's in my car because I slap it on when I get in my car. And I just try not to let people see me take it off at work or put it on at work because I don't want someone to think I've got some ankle rig going.
No, absolutely, man. I totally get it.
Yeah.
Totally get it.
Yeah, I love that thing. Thanks again, buddy.
Absolutely.
So you circle back to fire extinguishers.
Yeah. Hey, if for some reason you are not somebody that's, interested in keeping a firearm for home protection, right? Maybe young kids, wife's against it, husband's against it. We're not going to be sexist here because it goes both ways.
Yep.
Somebody that is just generally afraid of firearms because of what they hear on the news, right? That, oh my God, guns are these terrible things. Hey man, if you keep a fire extinguisher in your room and somebody comes in your house and you hose them with a fire extinguisher, guess what? That's going to be a little bit of a deterrent, Now, I will tell you that something that's known in the law enforcement community and is probably not as politically correct as it should. I don't want to say as it should be, but it's known that fire extinguishers work pretty well on emotionally disturbed people. It's not the greatest thing, and I'm not saying that cops are running around the country spraying people with fire extinguishers, but there have been accounts of citizens that are having to deal with EDPs, and they hit them with a fire extinguisher, and man, it changes their tune, and they're out of there.
Wow, that's awesome. I've not heard that. It makes perfect sense. So that's a great tip, buddy.
Again, cops that I know of in the country, at least in Arizona and across the country that I know of, are not going around hosing people with mental illness with fire extinguishers. But from accounts we've studied, accounts that have been studied, it works as a deterrent for EDPs.
Well, I'll add to that, Chris. Not speaking from an LE perspective, but that's a lot better than it ended up in a damn shooting.
Absolutely, right?
So,
but the media will portray it as, oh my God, this Eric Davis went and hosed this poor gentleman down with a fire extinguisher. It's like, yeah, we're not going to tell the whole details. We'll just tell what fits our narrative, right?
Yep.
So it's something to consider. Multi-use things. So the fire extinguisher is a great tool for personal security in more than one way. I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, awesome. Great.
And anything else, guys, I don't really, we've spent so much time on everything else, and it's been a great show. I don't endorse like a lot of books, but man, I picked this up last week and I'm about halfway through with it, and it came out. I don't know if you guys follow the Integrated Skills Group guys. Their stuff's pretty.
Yeah. Absolutely. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, go ahead.
I picked this book up. It's called Carry the Fire.
Yeah.
And I think it was $20 on Amazon. And it gets into like some survival stuff, but not like survival where, it's end of the world type thing and stuff. This is just like wilderness stuff. And then it gets into personal defense, overland, how to prep a vehicle. I mean, dude, I cannot say enough about this book. And it talks about hardening the home. It's a great starting point for that. Pros and cons, just general like personal security awareness. There's some stuff in there and like dealing with unknown contacts, kind of like from Craig's stuff. Just, man, if you want a good starting point above this podcast and just asking your friends who are in the know, this is a great baseline, man. And I can't say enough really good things about just general overall awareness and safety. And it's not like a weird prepper book.
So it's Carry the book's Carry the Fire. Who is the author?
Well, it's by the Integrated Skills Group.
Oh, okay. But the dude, that'll be good. That'll be good. I just want to make sure if anybody's just listening, they can find it.
I'm writing notes for my show notes. I'll make sure that I have it in there.
Can see that Integrated Skills, Aaron Moyer, but I just looked up Carry the Fire Integrated Skills and it popped right up.
I'm sure that's good.
And yeah, man, I mean, it talks about different ways to carry the firearm, off-body carry. I mean, it's just a good general knowledge book. And basically, if you go and look at their webpage it's their webpage. They just took all their notes. It would be like one of us taking all our notes that we've had over the years and combining into a book.
Legit.
And they just did a phenomenal job. It's a freaking outstanding book. I can't say enough good things about it. And it's on my Instagram page if you guys forget. So
okay, cool.
Awesome. It's one of those things. Aaron knows I'm I'm always reading. I love my books. My son Nick, what he got me for Christmas was a book. And so, man, I love engrossing myself in books, man. So, and you said something I think is key, and we'll start to close out. Is I love baselines. I love baselines for our audience. And I think it's crucial that we continue to drive home cues.
Yeah.
We drive home quick reference to the most important skills, because frankly, we are always reminded of things we need to be doing. And that's why we keep talking about our notebooks. And you can't do everything perfectly. You can't spend an inordinate amount of money, all at once. All of this is a gradual preparation in what we do to be prepared for, whatever it is. If it be a fire, if it be, self-defense encounter. It's all gradual. So we just ask folks, consider the basics and just start with something. And I'm
going to add to that, man. Start with the basics, whether you use this conversation some guidance from some friends, this book, whatever. Start with that and then tailor it towards you. Too many people want the like one thing does all, like what works for Eric and Aaron's going to work for Chris, or what works for Chris is going to work for Aaron. And then, Eric will pick up on it. No, man, it doesn't work that way. I live in Arizona. Aaron, you live in Washington, right?
No, I actually live in Tulsa. Eric used to live in Washington.
Yep.
That's okay. So, Aaron, you and I deal with a lot of similar environments: very hot summers, cooler winters, arid environment. Eric, man, I mean, you deal with hurricanes and cold, nasty, wet winters, but you have the access to water, right?
Yep.
So what works for you is not going to work for us. So
Absolutely.
Get the baseline, tailor it specifically to you. Write down notes. Take that notepad that you were talking about that we keep. And that's a lot of what I do is I journal and go, I don't journal. I write down notes and key points from podcasts, from books, and go, okay, that's not going to fit for me, but what can I use to fill that gap that works for Chris, right? And if you use that baseline and then backfill it, we'll say from there with what you need, that's a great starting point. And that will be, as we, the three of us all know, that's a never ending process, right? It's always evolving. It's always changing based off of experiences, personal experiences. So modify it to what works for you. Don't let somebody tell you there's a end all be all of one does everything.
Since it's not something you're just going to nail down right away or even in the near future, the process is fun too, because it's it's a constant process of learning. And man, I love to learn. I love the aha moments of things I've never thought about, and I've had a few of them here in this show. So thanks so much, Chris. It's always a blast hanging out with you, and let's do number 5 here soon.
Sounds good, man. I'm always down for it, guys. I will tell you what, this has been as enjoyable for me as hopefully it was for you guys. I've had a blast on the show because it can spin to so many different topics, man, and just great times.
That's right.
Well, and Chris, having this previous, now this particular show is gonna air slightly different just because of how we're doing some of the releases, but some of the folks in the audience will know that I just did a monologue show on basic preparedness, and I'm surprised it's taken us this long to do a little more of this. So I think, frankly, I think there's more shows like this to come. And I said this on my show that I did just recently is I asked myself when I started to cover it, why would I cover something again that other folks have already done, likely a lot better, maybe not, who knows? It's because we always need reminders, and I'm interested in digging down this rabbit hole a little further with you because you're giving us really practical information, man. I love it. Well, Chris, I think we're getting close to a couple hours here, which is perfectly fine. But I think we should go ahead and close it for now, and we'll just plan on show 5. I mean, Chris, we might as well just try to just beat down some of our really good friends and just, Chris Lapre just taking it, for the number of shows.
Guys, I appreciate it, and it's honestly, this is how can I put it? This is some downtime and decompression for me, is talking with like-minded people, and I just love it. Like, this is a great way to spend a Wednesday night. So
rock on. Same here.
I appreciate you guys having me on as often as you do.
We appreciate your help and your mentorship as well, buddy. So thank you so much.
Outstanding, guys. You guys have a wonderful night.
You too.